Welcome to the Infinity Loop group. I'm Riley Burns.
I'm Krista Vorse.
We're going to dive right into yoga and the Infinity Loop. When you speak, it should be as if infinity is speaking through you. Yogi Bhajan.
Really great quote. Really great quote. Freaking great. And it was interesting, right after the book was published and I put that quote in the book and referred to him. This was during the Me Too movement, the coming out. It came out that he actually wasn't as safe for women as we thought, and a lot of sexual misconduct and predatory stuff came out about Yogi Bhajan, which is interesting because it ties in what we were talking about yesterday about counterfeit things, or the good and the bad that we can see in, anyone who's a public figure. You said some interesting points when we were talking, Riley, about that, about how we almost the cancel culture, that it's makes everything very black and white about who we can refer to or promote or platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance of taking the good, not with the bad, understanding that no one is fully divine and no one, people can give some great wisdom. It does not make them an infallible person that you need to follow them. Or just because you are quoting something from someone doesn't mean you're validating all their actions. Mm-hmm. Their quote can be still gold, even if the person is trash.
Yeah. And how in the last few years, where some of the people that I have been spiritually aligned with, where I'm going, wow, it's interesting. I really see that social issue differently than with how they just said that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that there used to be people that I would go, oh, this is someone I look up to and I believe kind of everything they believe in. I would argue now there's not one person on this planet that I fully agree with what everything they agree. And to me, I find that to be very beautiful and freeing, because it really embodies the sense of thinking for yourself. Because
it's again the anti-cult.
Right.
That's great. Yeah, we're celebrating that. So I had a conversation with someone about yoga and the Infinity Loop, and that's what I'm going to share. So she says, after years developing an advanced Ashtanga practice, she fell in love with Kundalini yoga, and that's what Yogi Bhajan was into. Clients and friends deep into the yoga philosophy have told me my work is very yogic. She says, after 18 months of practice with Master Kundalini teachers, I learned that my power as a woman comes from my navel center. It needs to be really strong. That's where we come into a room and we're radiant beings as women, because that's where our power comes from. After 14 years of an intense Ashtanga practice and all my other athletics, I thought I was pretty strong, but then I realized I wasn't as strong as I thought. Kundalini does a lot of different breath works called kriyas. It's the posture, breath, and sound that is so transformational. Breath of fire is one of them.
So you're saying that the strength comes from the form of breathing?
It comes from the navel center, and the
right.
breath
So it's
work,
not just a six pack. It's
actually a deeper interior abdominal muscles that are more trained than what could be on the outside. And so it's coming from the breath work, the sound, the mantras, the physical practice that becomes very transformational. So one powerful way to do breath of fire is to lay on your back with your feet 6 inches off the floor and your hands parallel to your legs. Your head is 6 inches off the ground as well while you do the breath of fire for 3 to 5 minutes. After a minute, I had my aha moment that Kundalini isn't just light and easy. After this strength work, we feel this complete calm. After you do each Kriya, you do a complete relaxation for an entire minute and your whole being changes, your physiology. That's kind of like our going into the cold, right? And then what happens? How our physiology changes, which changes our psychology. This calmness, this centeredness, this knowingness, your confidence completely changes. It changes your aura. So when you go out into the world, your aura mirrors yourself and attracts that energy. That's what I started to do, the smile experiment. I came up with that name. That's how we see people, as you talk about, Krista. Every single person that I encountered, I would look into their eyes. If they would look at me, I would smile. That's the sawubona, the South African phrase that we use. I got incredible, receptive people. I've done this smile experiment for over a month now. Some people it took by surprise. I always naturally did it in my life, but now I more consciously do it. Now I don't look at the phone while I walk. I'm more present and look into everybody's eyes and make the point to make that connection. Some people will look and smile and others won't. I did realize the people who wouldn't give me the eye contact also wouldn't smile. The people who gave me eye contact, most of the time they would smile at me. This was a very good experiment. And I think we don't look at each other near that we used to because of the phone. And we don't smile. We don't look and greet each other like we used to. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I would say as a man, I think we're actually pretty good at that. I think men are much more natural to give the nod, to acknowledge
I'm not getting that
people.
from men.
Well, I think it's a man-to-man thing.
Oh.
I actually find that men are doing it less and less to women because it comes off creepy. So they're almost told not to smile and look at a woman because that would be considered creepy or wrong. And so I think it's the cost of the Me Too movement. You know, you then when you villainize all men, the bad men still do the bad things they were going to do, but now the good men don't do the things that you wanted them to do from the first place. And that is really, from my experience, what I notice.
I feel such sadness about that. Of like, I will try to look at a man and smile and they will not acknowledge me. It's very often now. It's really, really sad. It's true. That's the shadow, right, of the Me Too movement. In Kundalini, a strong navel center comes from the inside out. It's not like doing 500 sit-ups. I felt like I was too young on my journey when I first introduced to Kundalini yoga at age 18 to grasp it. I thought it was too woo-woo out there. So later in my life, when I got into yoga, I started with the physical practice of yoga. Now that I'm officially menopause mama, I like the calming practice of Kundalini. I need it for my nervous system. It's been life-changing. Kundalini teachers taught me what it means to be a woman in her power. It's beautiful. Yogi Bhajan started it all with how he honored women. What an incredible practice to honor the feminine. I didn't feel that with the Ashtanga, although Ashtanga has taught me many lessons in each posture within myself, self-realization. Kundalini is extremely empowering to women. The stage that I'm at now, I really resonate with that. Yogi Bhajan started with women's camps where women supported women versus the competitiveness you see around us. We were listening to Marianne Williamson on a podcast talking about the feminist movement that she was kind of growing up in as a woman, and how it was women just supported women. And now where feminism is today, and this competitiveness is just tragic, and other things, it's kind of gone off the tracks.
Well, the competitiveness now is because women are no longer even just competing with women, but they're competing with men. And so that's the, I think, dilemma or hurdle that we need to find, this balance of having men and women in the workplace. Not saying we don't need that, but we need to understand what that comes with, what values we get from them, and not focus on the conflict. Right? So having a different perspective by having a woman in the workforce, obviously we've had that now for a while, but now we need women to think like women, not think like men.
I would say, yeah, the integration of the divine masculine and divine feminine, and fully own that, right? An alpha woman doesn't have to behave like a man. Kundalini is so much in the heart center. What you teach, Krista, this is what my friend was saying, in the infinity loop is what they teach in yoga, how we show up in our power, even the love letters to ourselves, right? The great love affair. All the self-inquiry these master teachers teach for self-mastery to create more awareness and to create more awareness. Connection, awareness, and inquiry are all at the heart of Kundalini Yoga. The breath of fire connects me to what you teach about letting our fire, our anger, drop into our bellies, in the navel center, out of our chests, or diffuse in the body, where our awareness gets constricted. You teach to come from the navel center and heart center. This practice is how to experience love in this life, self, others, nature, and beauty. What you teach is about loving well. These master teachers call it self-psychology. Kundalini teaches about the sound book, which is what we were talking about in the last podcast about what the Tibetan monks carried around, which is a written record of our sound current, what we say to ourselves throughout the day. It's the practice of becoming aware of our thoughts and words. By writing them down in our sound book, we become aware and intentional to live in love. That's the infinity loop, right? The practice of the sound book comes from the Tibetan monks. This is their practice to focus on bringing love into the world. The monks carry around their sound book, and the goal is to stay in love. The teachers say to use mantras every day. That's the spiritual practice. Mantras become what we choose to say to ourselves that bring us into our highest selves. The teachers call this getting mantras into your sound current. So many phrases, truths, and principles you teach, Krista, are mantras. Kundalini Yoga is about the radiant body, the field of energy that extends 9 feet around us, and how we give that into the world. Being centered, being heart-centered, it's coming from the gut. This is the way we influence. Martha Beck talks about this when she talks about brain states. Entrainment, whoever has the strongest brain state is able to pull every single person to this level. And we were talking about that between us of when that works, but that doesn't always work. And you were sharing, some of the research we've learned for different people, and actually Andrew Huberman. Did you want to share about that, Riley?
Well, no, actually, honestly, the more I think about it, the more I don't think it is relevant to this, because exactly what you say here is the person with the highest brain state will pull everyone out of that. And I do believe in the power of people adapting to the highest brain state in the room. I think people do rise to the occasion, and I've seen it many times in my life from just you showing up in people's lives and how you can get the best out of people.
That's great. Okay, great. Yeah, and he's referring more to like a performance level, how negativity could affect someone. But it's true, if someone is truly in the infinity loop, in their power, that can change the whole field. That's the philosophy of Kundalini. You pull a whole room into that energy. So when you walk in and you're in your power, in your feminine power, you're able to change the chemistry of the entire room. That's that alpha woman, right? Every woman is a leader because they lead others to a higher vibration, greater awareness, greater connection. By the choice to make eye contact and smile to a great percentage, I pulled that out of other people who may have not done it otherwise. There's always those who don't, but for those that did, they followed my lead. Our vibration is at a higher level where it's our duty as spiritual beings on this planet to lift others up. By the time you've gotten into your 50s, life has knocked you around a bit. If you're able to go out into the world with a wonderful attitude and lift others up, that's our duty. That's what we're here to do on this planet. Then I said, Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle talk about how it is so sad right now that people cannot get past the polarities in politics. They communicate with such lack of consciousness that they only fight. It's the same thing Brené Brown talks about. Deepak and Eckhart said it's the greatest thing you can do in the world is to raise your consciousness. If you have the most awareness, even what happens in you physically, because of what we've learned from Deepak about constricted awareness and expanded awareness, which we're going to talk about in more detail in a different podcast, that literally changes the world. If you have a bunch of women who have the spaciousness in their bodies that come from such a deep heart connection, where they don't try to compete, compare, conflict, conspire, or condemn, but literally connect. And then anything that they speak out of curiosity, in awareness, we change our world. I see this as a principle in yoga, this curiosity, this inquiry. It's a kind of playfulness. And then she said, definitely, the spiritual thinkers and leaders that I follow today all have this childlike playfulness. All the mystics from St. Francis of Assisi, all of them have this playful curiosity. The joy and childlike lightness makes you want to giggle and laugh. It's beautiful to see, especially with the heaviness that's going on around us. I don't understand how there's such a great divide when there's so much love. That's why I did the smile experiment. That's what I give back. And it amazes me what the world looks like at the end of the day because I got that energy back. Also, our bodies are temples, so it's crucial how we feed them. Energetically, who we surround ourselves with, what we listen to, what we read, what we eat, what we drink. To be at this level, you must care about everything you put in your system. And I enjoy what I enjoy. If I'm going to drink a glass of wine, I'm going to enjoy it. If I'm going to do it with loving kindness, and I want to enjoy life. That's where this balance comes in, and that's what the infinity loop represents, is balance. I think we can go too extreme in that area too. I enjoy good food, but I eat and drink healthy, and especially at this phase in my life at menopause, I feel the consequences if I don't. I have to be very connected to mind, body, and spirit. Noise levels, too much social media, computers, too much artificial light. I need the calm environment. What's so beautiful that at my age, I know what I need. When I think of what makes for a powerful woman, I'd say it's three things. Stay present, stay in your power, stay in your truth. Oh, it's so beautiful what she said, huh?
What would you like to develop more in your life to connect you to your body as a spiritual center?
Well, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Well, yeah, I know you were talking about that new like flowing dance practice that you were
my
wanting to
gosh.
try.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination between dance and yoga, and connecting of the childlikeness, the youthfulness, the infinite health that is beyond my age. To celebrate what my body can do as though it was 20 years younger.
What is your relationship to your navel center now in terms of from where you speak, your fire in your belly, your truth, holding your own?
Well, I would say I learned about speaking from the navel center in my really in my 20s, when I studied with a acting teacher who worked with actors about voice and how everything that you're gonna say is gonna first land in your like emotional center in your gut. But I wasn't able to practice that all those years because I wasn't in my body. I wasn't in inner stillness. I was fleeing my body because my nervous system was so disturbed and I was in so much conflict with different things in my life. But now I would say that's where I speak from. Is coming from that navel center, and it's awesome. You do that too. You definitely have that.
Very kind of you. What would be in your sound book? Obviously, I think we agree that this is kind of our sound book. The Infinity Loop tool book is kind of our sound book, full of mantras and remembrance of where our values are and keeping us grounded.
Amen. Good.
The infinity loop of our masculine and feminine. I can be warrior and a flower fairy at the same time, by Chris DeVorce. Or as I would say, I can be a warrior or I can be a leprechaun at the same time.
I lay on the table of my healer. I'm not the person I was a year ago. The old Krista didn't have the integration of all her parts. Now she gives the welcome embrace to her masculine that she had been told to forget about and wasn't necessary. And that was my necessary nemesis was actually even said that as a coach, like, yeah, you don't need any of that masculine. You just stay in your feminine. And he very much he would just tell me, like, you need to submit. And that's true. We cannot just be only in our feminine and not integrated, right? Without the beautiful integration, we'll be used, controlled, left without the balance and skill to be an alpha woman who stands in the infinity loop and changes the world. My healer doesn't believe we should go out into the world without our integration. She works with me to love that masculine part that saved my life. She faces my right side. My left arm has been bothering me. Our bodies, even our injuries, alert us to what we should pay attention to. We've worked with some relationships my left arm represents as the feminine, the left side represents the feminine. She sees the infinity loop between the outside edges of my ribs on both sides. She invites me to completely integrate my masculine and feminine in the infinity loop that lays across my body. Divine feminine is unconditional love, healing, tenderness, gentleness, beauty, wisdom, patience, kindness, acceptance, compassion, flexibility, fertility, and intuition. She's welcoming, nurturing, forgiving, and accessible. Through the feminine, we midwife our dreams. The divine masculine is logical, resilient, fearless, courageous, adventurous, and a protector with very clear boundaries for himself and those he protects. He speaks out for the voiceless. This gentle strength brings peace to conflict. His inner power comes from knowing who he is, and that if his actions line up with his intentions, he will accomplish what he sets out to do. Power isn't taken from another, nor does he use tricks to gain it. A leader, he's not afraid to speak the truth, no matter the consequences. He welcomes uncertainty. He's a provider and brings in material abundance. When our sacred masculine and feminine are whole and integrated, we're able to create anything. Some call this new sacred feminine the fierce feminine that embodies and incorporates these masculine qualities. I love that too.
When you read this list of qualities in the divine masculine and feminine, which qualities stood out to you as ones that you value the most or seek to integrate?
I'm saying that what I want for this life is I want to have all of them. I want to be so working on how do I integrate every last quality of that masculine and feminine, the divine masculine and feminine, and to flow in that as I'm able to adapt well and hold boundaries and have a sword down my spine and speak truth and have strength and gentleness. Like I want to be so skilled, like someone so skilled with their sword. I want every one of those qualities for myself.
Wonderful. I think that's a great goal. I know, at least for the divine feminine, I know one of these characteristics that I am proud of, that I've been working on for a long time and continue to keep working on, but it's patience. I find I'm proud at how much I have developed that skill of patience.
I'm so proud of it. It's so beautiful.
It's one of those things. It's not a thing that you have, it's a thing that you choose to work on, where I will intentionally put myself in a situation where I know I am waiting for someone and I won't use my phone to entertain me, where I put my phone out of reach and sit in the moment and go, no, this is what real patience is like. Waiting and not grumpily waiting, but happily waiting for someone to show up.
And I'm going to say that then flows to how you are with people. Your patience with me, it is so, and with other people that I have seen, it's so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
That is that way you've embraced the divine feminine and integrated that into you. God, I want more men to be able to do that. That's where the quote unquote toxic masculinity. I want to say something. Can I say something?
Please.
I was reflecting on, I was at a dinner party, I don't know how many years ago, a few years ago. And someone was like, oh yeah, this guy's really great. And the moment he sat down across from me, he's a father, and I think he had daughters. It was just like, oh, you wrote a book? Well, how were the sales? Well, what did you do to market? And I was just going, this guy could really use what's in this book, because there was no integration with the feminine that would even make the space which the feminine does.
To me, what comes up right away is, oh, he tried to connect with you like you're a man, because that is exactly how another man would try and connect, because it's all goal oriented, and men, at least from my experience and biologically, connect through achievements and goals. And so that is his way. When a man doesn't have the nuance and skills of how to connect with female, he only connects in the only way he knows how. In every way he's connected with every man. And everything he was doing is exactly how men would connect.
So interesting, because he ended up being with a woman who, he's divorced, was uber, came from a submissive culture. Isn't that interesting? So it was almost like a woman can only be in this.
Well, yeah, when you are fully masculine and have no touch of your feminine, you need your feminine partner to be so feminine and not in touch with their masculine, right? Because that's all
and
they
submissive,
can connect.
that
Right.
there's no other place to match him. But I was just going like, there was no curious, like, a woman that was healthy would have been like, oh, what was your book about? Oh, wow. It would make space to go, oh, I could see that could be a value. It wouldn't just be about the bottom line. And it was dominating.
I think though that's just the natural nuance of how men and women connect differently.
Yeah. Or God, but I've also seen where a healthy man who's very integrated, like, okay, I'm just going to say how much I look to Deepak Chopra as somebody who flows so beautifully in inner stillness and in the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I'll bet you a lot of money that would not be the conversation I would have with him. And boy, does that guy know how to accomplish and be in the divine masculine in the world.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that, but I think that's few and far between, and I think that's why we're doing this. I think most men don't have. I think most men not only aren't in touch with their feminine side, but are afraid of their feminine side.
Do you want to tell me anything more than that?
Well, I mean, there's many different layers to it. So there is the masculine side that beats it down and goes, you're not supposed to show any weakness. You're not supposed, be a man, stuff it down kind of thing. And then there's the other side of when men have tapped into that and been taken advantage of or belittled for their tapping in. And so what all that does is shut them down more. I mean, women always talk about how much they want men to open up. I don't know a man that hasn't been manipulated or abused by a woman once they have opened up. So it is this nuance. I mean, obviously, from my experience of opening up, it's also the only reason why I believe I have a healthy relationship now. But I mean, I have many experiences where opening up and sharing something I was struggling with was just thrown in my face and used against me. And I think that's very common for men. And I think that is why you get the Andrew Tates to be pushed and promoted, because they create an environment that the vulnerability doesn't come into play. I mean, I think the strongest person is the one that is willing to be vulnerable. But understanding that comes with a consequence, there is risk at being vulnerable. And I think a lot of men are unwilling to take that risk.
Yeah. And then we were hearing Andrew Tate say something like, oh no, there's all this vulnerability, but it's in our only among us men.
Right. And I mean, I go back and forth, and I think there is a lot of value in that, in having the men's group and sharing your problems with men. But I also think as we are moving forward and trying to progress as a society, it becomes more and more important to be able to be vulnerable with your partner or with your female friends and stuff like that, and opening up that. I just think it's a very difficult line to walk as a culture that we need to work on.
Yeah, I would say I think we're a mess right now as a culture and very confused, and that's why we need to up level to the new higher integrated masculine and femininity. What and however it shows and whatever sexual preferences that people have, it's not. It could be how it shows up between two women, two men. How it flows. It's not men or women. It is, but it's also the masculinity and femininity that needs to be integrated and healthy and whole, and question what the expression of that was, I guess, in past. I'm just thinking about like in Ashland, Oregon, they had this men's warrior groups, and they get together. But then when I saw some of the way they would control the situations, I just thought, God, you're just toxic.
The fruit from that tree was rotten. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
It wasn't integrated. It was like this. Yeah, that we're going to a whole new level in this. I would say in the next decade of as the masculine and femininity. May we integrate in the infinity loop in divine and healthy masculinity and femininity.
When you read that, we're fully integrated into our divine masculine and divine feminine. We can create anything. How does that empower you? We're in the infinity loop where anything is possible. How do you see the world differently?
That's a challenge for me of where I need to look at what I want to still develop in myself and integrate and fully embrace, and what parts of myself have I split from that I can then bring into myself so that I can create a more beautiful world and whatever I'm supposed to do in this world. So that's my work.
Amen. And the work never stops.
Yeah.
May this be an opportunity to call you all to find your balance between your masculine and feminine. And may we all practice together and become better at this together. Thank you so much for joining us on this Infinity Loop group journey. Till next time.